I'm Sabra Johnson. I own City Classic Cars and Restorations by Sabra, two of the largest restoration companies anywhere on the planet. We're located here in this Houston market. Houston is arguably one of the one or two top two markets in the entire nation. And so Houston is pretty high up on the list, and through great clients in Houston across the world, we've been able to solidify that number one spot for some period of time now. So we love restoration. We love the stories of restoration. We love connecting with new clients. But what I want you to look at today is the cost. I want you to really look at the cost. This is a serious investment when you start talking about restoring a complete automobile. I want you to just think about it reasonably for a moment. That automotive manufacturer originally, when they built that car, they had hundreds of millions invested in R&D. They had thousands of employees involved in the process of building that car. They had tons of subcontractors involved in supplying the parts for that particular car, all kinds of engineers working and developing that particular car. They have a whole dealership network designed to sell that car to you, and then they sell that car to you for a price, $30,000, $17,000, $59,000. But they're doing so much volume, all of those millions, hundreds of millions, they're calculated in a way that you and I pay a small percentage for that car. Here's what I want you to understand about restoration. I'm literally building the car. This is not painting the car or something like that. I'm literally tearing this car apart, and I, in my shop, with my handful of staff, with my human mind, our efforts, that same car that they spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build, and R&D and research and engineering, it's just a handful of us, and we have that same exact challenge to build that car. So that, I hope, helps you understand the magnitude of investment that the restoration company is making. Now, this side here, I'm going to show you this chart in a moment. This is factory correct. There's another one that talks about resto modding. One talks about pro touring. One talks about custom. So once you start saying factory correct, that's where my team and I, we don't really do a whole lot of engineering of the project. We basically put it back like it was. That's our assignment. That's our task of putting the car back like it was. But it takes so many hours. We can't do this in 200 hours or 400 hours. It's just not gonna happen. Remember, when the car was originally built by Ford or Chevy or Honda or Toyota, it took thousands of hours to get this car built. So there's no way you can expect us to do it within 200-300 hours. It's just not gonna happen. So then we start talking about resto modding over here. That's where now we're R&D in this car. That's what we have to really literally build it. The only thing I'm using when I'm resto modding the car, I'm only using the nameplate and the VIN number. That's it. Normally, I'm not using a chassis that came with the car. So whatever chassis that the original manufacturer had, throw it in the trash. I'm not even using it. Whatever engine the manufacturer had where they did all that R&D on it, throw it in the trash. The braking system, throw it in the trash. We are doing all of that in-house. And I want you to understand that that takes a lot of time. And in our market, time is equated into an hourly rate. So you must understand that we as shops, we charge an hourly rate. Now, all things being equal, let's say everybody who's at the top, they're doing it at the same level. So how do you determine the different price point? What you have to look at is, how much do we charge per hour? That's a serious consideration. Now, in this Houston market, pretty much most shops are going to be between $60 and $120. This is going to be the bookend. Now, the price in and of itself does not dictate quality. I don't want to convey that. But generally speaking, the ones on the high end side, they're going to be well over $100 an hour. The ones that are on the entry-level side or they're just beginning, they're going to be closer to the $60 level, if you will. And so what you have to do is you have to find a restoration shop that fits your sensibility and that fits your actual budget. That's going to be a very, very key thing. Now, as we continue in this, and I know you may not be able to fully see this chart behind me. If you go to my website, all this stuff is there. You go to some of our social pages. We're always teaching on this because I want you to love what we do. I want you to enjoy it, but I want you to be educated. I want you to be informed going into the door and not having to learn along the process. And one of the biggest things you have to look at is, can you afford this? Now, who buys restoration? Who's the consumer in this restoration market? Listen, it's blue collar individuals. It is entry level workers. It is executives and leaders and heads of industry, and yes, it's celebrities and all of that. But I will admit to you, this industry is still driven by that 1%. This industry would not be in business if it wasn't for individuals that are seriously invested into the car. So this comes with, number one, you have to have an emotional connection, and two, you have to have a financial means. So you got to check your emotion. And then two, you have to check your financial means, because you have to have both of these. You have to commit to this thing. This is the journey, man. And you have to have the bank account to put these things together. If you don't have the willpower, or if you don't have the money, this thing's going to crash. It's going to end up bad, you know. I don't know any builder, any serious builder throughout the country that has everybody who's been their client loves them. And the reason that happens is because a lot of people jump into this unprepared. A lot of people jump into this and they just don't have the financial means. So let's get through this really, really quick, and I'll finish up with a few more points. The first thing I want you to see is that there are four kind of categories of restoration. One is called factory correct, one is called resto mod, one is called pro touring, and one is actually called custom. Now, the further you are on this side of the chart, the less expensive it's going to be. The more you go that way, the more expensive it's going to be. So sometimes what happens with individuals, their desire is way down here and their pocketbook is all the way over there. They're going in two different directions. That's not going to work. That's not going to work in restoration. It's kind of like trying to go to a great restaurant and you're trying to find the loopholes on the menus. There is no loophole on the menu. This is what they do for a living. They establish restaurant menus for the public. Well, this is what we do for a living. There are no loopholes. You have to bring your commitment and you have to bring your bank account. You have to put those two things together in a way that makes sense for you. Now, I want you to look at these numbers. I'm saying an entry level, at the most bottom basic level I can think of, you're going to be between $800 and $1,200. Now, let's come in the medium. That's $1,000. So 1,000 times 115, you're well over $100,000. So let's say, well, no, you're going to be somewhere in the middle. So now that's level two. That's 2,000, 3,000 hours. Let's go back in the middle at 2,500 hours. Let's say the shop rate was $100 an hour. Do you realize that's $250,000 in labor, not counting parts and materials? And do you understand that normally on a full restoration, it's about 40-60 split? Anywhere from 40 to 60% of the entire bill is going to be generated just to the part side. And the labor is going to be about 50%, somewhere in there, 40 to 60. It can swing either kind of way. But you're not going to build a $100,000 car where the parts are $90,000 and you think the craftsman is going to work for $10,000. You have to pay your craftsman. So a lot of people are excited about paying for parts. They don't complain about parts, but you don't want to pay a craftsman. And so what you must understand, at the high end of the market, which is where I am, I charge like I'm the high end of the market. I charge $115. I don't bat an eye. I don't back down. That's what I charge. And so those individuals who come to me, you clearly have to have the financial means. And you clearly have to have the commitment. And people who come to me, they want me to build a car. They don't want anybody else in the world to do it. They want me to build a car, and they want to invest in me to produce this magnificent car for them. All right, I won't go over all this now. We'll come back to it. But I want you to prepare yourself. I want you to understand that this is a serious commitment when it comes to restoring your automobile.